Hello guys, it is Tuesday at 6:50 a.m. I feel really weak today and my voice is kind of coarse, but yeah, I just have allergies so much and my health has been really failing me recently. 2 days ago I had to go to the emergency room because I dropped a knife on my foot and it was absolutely terrifying. It was just kind of crazy because there was so much blood and I for a second thought that I was gonna die, but it wasn't as bad as it looked and I just got stitches on my foot and now it's all well again. I mean, there's stitches in my foot, but so this morning I have Russian, then I have my psychoanalysis class, and this afternoon I haven't had bed.
Und besonders die Stadt Severodonetsk in schwierigen Situationen. Also
It's so quiet here. Oh, fuck, I have to go to the bath. It's 8 a.m. and my university really terrifies me in the morning because it's so quiet. And like, there's people, but it's like you can drop a needle and you will hear it. And my friend from Russia is not here, which makes me really sad because she's in Paris right now. Really rude. I am beyond mad. They just canceled my class just like that. Rude. Very rude. I drove here almost an hour. This was definitely a pretty rough day. I usually don't really have a problem with being rather lonely at university, but today it did feel a bit sad because my brain feels so mushed up and I couldn't really work, so it's just like mostly just sitting places. Today when I was sitting outside at university and when I was sitting at the library, I really wanted to talk about this feeling of loneliness that I had at university today, and it's not really something that was very specific to that day. It's how I feel most days. Just sometimes I'm a bit more passionate in my academic work, and then it doesn't really matter, and then I don't really want to talk to people like at all, and it kind of bothers me. So, and then I was in the car and started filming, but my camera had died like at 10 a.m., which was very unfortunate for planning a vlog. So to set the scene, after 2-3 months of university, I've learned a lot academically, and I've also learned a lot about studying at a big university. And I don't know if it would have been different if I would have, been there in the first semester with the people who are now in the second semester with me, because they all seem pretty tight-knit, I guess. Or if I would have just made more of an effort, I guess. But it's hard to meet people, and for most people I do talk to, they have the same experience, and I'm sure it's related to the pandemic and to online learning and everything post-pandemic and people being nervous and all of that. So far I've made one friend, and her name is Lenya, and I talked to her in my Russian class because she looked like someone I could be friends with. And I think it's very funny that I just judged her appearance and took the courage to speak to her. She was sitting next to me, which made it fairly easy because, you can start the usual, oh, do you have a pen, or whatever kind of conversation. So I spoke to her, and after the lesson I asked her if she wanted to drink coffee in the courtyard, and we did. And after like 5 sentences, it became clear that we both loved Lana Del Rey, and judging her from her appearance, I could kind of tell, because, I don't know, I guess with teenagers and young adults and just being Gen Z in general, the whole aesthetic thing is definitely something superficial when you look at it just superficially, but in a more in-depth way, you can read people a bit, and you can read their interests in a very specific way that I feel like 10 years ago you couldn't really. And that made it easier for me because I knew, even though I was kind of shy, that I had something that I could talk about with her. So yeah, it was superficial, but it was also fine. And with her it's really beautiful because we've become close friends, and she comes with my friend group. She now knows all of my friends, and we do stuff on the weekend, and yeah, it's just the way I imagined it. But the crux is she doesn't even really study. So she's just taking the Russian class because it's not part of my degree. It's a mandatory extracurricular. I could have done anything. There's a bunch of extracurriculars, but she's currently changing her degree as well, and she doesn't really go to my university. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I see her twice a week at uni, and that's what counts. But for everybody else, I've tried to meet the people in my classes, and I've gone out to eat at lunch with them sometimes. I can count the times on my hand, actually. But it always felt odd. I felt like I had forced myself upon them. And so now I kind of prefer being alone. And I don't want to lie and sit here and say that I love it and that it's easy or fun, because it's not. It's not fun to sit around the hallways and be alone and eat alone. But it's not as terrible or depressing as it would have been in high school, I think, because there's just so many people and a lot of people are alone. And B, as I've said before, it's a bit of a chosen loneliness, and it's kind of a place and a space where I can wind down and kind of forget everything and just focus on studying. And I think that's what matters in a way. But sure, I sometimes would want it to be different, but it's just hard. Recently I went out to a castle with a girl I had met online, and we went there to read and just create a bit, right? And we talked about whether we were introverts or extroverts, and with her was also a very easy and natural conversation, even though we had just met that exact day. And it's very interesting. And I found the conversation so interesting because for most of my life I consider myself to be an extrovert. But I've come to realize that I have a very rich interior and introvert life, I guess. But I'm also good with people most of the times. But either way, I feel like, whereas in my teenage years I was very much of an extrovert who was just lost in dreams and in their head and up in the clouds, often just a classic dreamer, I feel like now I've kind of become more and more of an introvert, seeking to be alone, needing to be alone, being distant from people, all of those things. And it's also very hard to draw the line between depression and being fine with being alone and being an introvert, because introverts aren't sad inherently, but you can be a depressed introvert for sure. So I don't know. And one thing that therapy told me is not to judge my state of mind so heavily, to say, oh, I'm so depressed, because it's like a cycle. But if you just accept the feelings and maybe even symptoms that you have, it's way more easy to get out of it. For example, today saying, I feel lonely. Loneliness is a feeling and it can also be a symptom, but if you just say, oh, today I'm lonely, and you don't give that feeling any power or any value, you don't judge it, you don't say, oh, how terrible, I'm lonely again, I suck, I don't have friends. If you just say I'm lonely, then the next moment you'll maybe feel happy or dreadful or anything, but it just becomes more fleeting and not so overbearing, I guess. So that is definitely an improvement in my thinking, but it also shies me away from making decisions about who I am.